I love writing my sermons early in the week. I really prefer to do it on Mondays, and my rhythm and my habit over time has been to go off-site, to go somewhere in the community to write. It's a way to detach myself from any of the distractions that may arise here, and so I put on noise-canceling headphones and tune out the world. And this past Monday, I went to Mozart's, which is a local coffee shop on Lake Austin. And I got there, and I ordered my coffee and my breakfast sandwich, and went and found a spot right by the water. And I've only been in Austin for about a year, and so I didn't realize just how big of a deal Lake Austin's Festival of Lights is. And they were setting up for it. And even with the noise-canceling headphones and the volume cranked up as loudly as I could still hear the power drill over and over and over again. And then they were also setting up these massive TV screens, and the tech nerd in me was watching them. I wanted to see where they were running wires from, and they were testing all kinds of videos, and so I was just sitting there admiring the beauty of those screens. And then there was this lady who had a bird just above her on this ledge, and it was amazing to watch her when she finally realized it and started freaking out because she thought the bird was going to drop something on her. And then I noticed the table across from me had a bird, and it was like staring into my soul, waiting for me to stop watching my breakfast sandwich and set it down so it could steal it from me. And then walks by a golden retriever, which is my dream dog one day. And so I had to stop everything I was doing, which I hadn't even started yet, and I just had to admire this dog as it walked by. And then I went to take a sip of my coffee, and so much time had passed that my coffee was ice cold, so I had to pour it out and go back and get a fresh, hot cup of coffee. But it was just one thing after another, and suddenly all my careful thoughts that I had brought into that moment about this sermon were scattered on the table like the autumn fall leaves outside. It's amazing how easily distractions can just bubble to the surface. I thought I had the sermon all lined up in my head, but there it was, something else, a noise, a busyness, an urgency. My wife was joining me at the table, and she had an unknown amount of questions as well, and it was just endless, the distractions. I wasn't going to throw you under the bus. I'm so sorry. Her Wi-Fi was not working. I had yet to test it because I hadn't even started. But I realized this is what life does. We can come in with the best of intentions. We can start our day with a full and heavy heart, loving Jesus and be true in our faith, and yet things just find a way to creep in and distract us and disrupt us without ever announcing that it's coming, without asking for permission. These distractions just find a way to sneak in and take over bits and pieces of our day. And so I wonder for you, what tends to take first place in your life? What sits quietly at the center without ever asking if it should be there to begin with? Maybe it's work. Maybe it's worry. Maybe it's control or our image or our comfort. I mean, none of these things are necessarily wrong, but it's when they begin to move from the outside to the inside and become the center of our lives and take on a weight they were never meant to hold. Life has a way of reshuffling our priorities without checking with us first. And we don't consciously choose to devote our energy and our time and our thoughts and our emotional bandwidth to these things. It just seems to happen. It just seems to bubble up, and sometimes it seems to take over. And I think we all feel that pull because the truth is, whatever sits at the center of our lives shapes our entire lives, whether we meant for it to or not. The first reading that we heard from Colossians, Paul is writing this letter, and he says, the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation, it's in him that holds all things together. It is in him, it is in Christ that holds all things together. Not just some things and not just the religious things, but in Christ that holds all things together. Your story, your struggle, your relationships, your future, Christ holds all of it. And then Paul takes it one step further and says, so that Christ might come to have first place in everything. Not because Jesus is needy and not because Jesus is trying to take control of every aspect of our life, but because he's the only one who is strong enough, loving enough, and steady enough to take on the weight of it all. He is the only one who can actually hold it all together. What keeps giving first place to things that can't bear the weight, Christ takes that place and doesn't crush us in the midst of it. This letter to the Colossians isn't giving us a heavy-handed command. It's actually giving us a promise that the one who holds all things together is already holding you. So again, I ask, what's first place for you right now? What quietly sits at the center shaping everything else? There's a story about a teacher who went up into her attic, and she was doing some cleaning. In the midst of cleaning, she encounters a crucifix. It's this wooden cross with this silver statue, or silver Jesus in the middle of it. And so she brings it down and she places it on her table. And a couple of days later, things start to pile up on her desk, and she's moving things around, and she notices that she moves the crucifix and sets it on top of her checkbook and bills. And in that moment, it made her pause and reflect. If money were really under the cross, what would she buy? What would she not buy? What would she keep, and what would she give away? A few more days pass, and she has more papers pile up, and she moves that cross again, and she finds that the cross is on a stack of papers that her students have written. There are these essays that she has to grade. And it stopped her in her tracks, and she began to question if her relationships were under the cross. How would she speak to her students? How would she prepare for the day? How would she interact and be with her colleagues? And then one afternoon, the cross ended up on a stack of recent pictures of her kids, of her husband, of her grandkids, of her family and friends. And again, she wondered, what kind of wife would she be if she really lived under the cross? What kind of mother, what kind of grandmother, what kind of friend? For weeks, the cross kept moving around that desk, and every time it landed somewhere new, it brought her back to that same question. What difference does my faith make here? What would it mean to let Christ be first in this part of my life? And it's not a guilt-driven question, it's an honest one. It's one we all run into one way or the other. Because when Christ is first, we stop pretending like we are the ones who truly have to hold it all together. We start seeing our choices, our relationships, our work, our friendships, and even our struggles through Christ's presence, not our pressure. And the beautiful thing is, we're not expected to get this right each and every time. That we are a people who, even when our center gets disrupted, we keep recentering ourselves again and again. And it's Jesus who meets us there again and again. A church with Christ at the center becomes a church shaped by mercy. A church where compassion outweighs competition. A church that stands with the vulnerable, that is held together not by our effort, but by Christ's steady love. So this week I invite you to pay attention, to notice where you're giving first place to, and to trust the one who already holds you, the one who reigns through self-giving love, who embodies a power that carries rather than crushes, and who holds all things, even you, together. Thanks be to God.